Hello, in this video, we're going to talk about methods of characterization. So our goal by the end of this video is for you to be able to list and identify 6 methods of characterization. You have access to this worksheet. It is our notes. We're going to break this worksheet apart bit by bit in these next couple slides. So we have 2 major types of characterization. Indirect, where we have to draw our own conclusions, and then direct characterization, where the author or the narrator just tells us what we need to know about learning a character. Now, when we learn about characters, it's the same as learning about people. We kind of pull in all the information we have, and then we draw conclusions about them. So our first type of indirect method of characterization are what characters say. And to learn about this in writing, we take a look at quotation marks at what characters are saying, but also how they say them, which we label those as dialogue tags of he whispered or she shouted. So how something's being said, not just the quotation marks of what they're saying, but how they're saying it. Our second method of indirect characterization are what characters look like. Now, we want to use adjectives that physically describe characters. We talk about their height, a color of their shirt, if they're wearing glasses. We don't want to say, though, that a character looks happy. How do we know someone looks happy? Instead, we might say that they're smiling, or someone's looking frustrated. They're not really looking frustrated. You're making an indirect reference there. You're concluding that they're frustrated. Maybe they're frustrated because physically what they look like is their brows are furrowed, their face and their cheeks are red. So we're looking for adjectives to describe the physical attributes of characters. Our third method of indirect characterization are what characters think. Now, if we're in a graphic novel, we might have thought bubbles. If we're in a text, sometimes thoughts are in italics, sometimes they're in quotation marks. So we really want to look for those tags there where it says like, he thinks, or she wondered, if we can tell the difference of them speaking out loud versus thinking. Or if we have a first person narrator, everything that narrator says is what that character thinks. Our next method of indirect characterization are what characters do. So we're looking for verbs, whether they're dashing, crawling, um, writhing, if we have these more descriptive verbs. But we also want to watch for contradictions. A character might say something and say, oh, it's so good to see you, but then do something else, like stab a character in the back. So we want to look for those contradictions between what characters do in the story versus what they're saying or versus what they're thinking. Our last method of indirect characterization is what other characters think, feel, or say. Gossip and opinion. When we ask someone, hey, what do you think about that person? We're getting that person's interpretation. These things all make us have to draw our separate conclusions. Our sixth method of characterization is direct characterization, where we are flat out told from usually a third person omniscient narrator that a character is brilliant, or the character is the smartest in the room, or that a character is evil. Those are flat out direct characterizations. We don't have to draw conclusions like we do with our indirect methods. So here's just a list of some conclusion words based on if a character's face is red, and based if they say, I hate you, maybe they are enraged. Um, Maybe based on what they're doing, maybe someone says, do this, and the character does the thing. Maybe they're naive or gullible. So we have our 5 methods of indirect, what a character says, does, looks like, thinks or says, and what other characters say. And then we have our direct method of characterization. Now that this video is over, you should be able to close your eyes and list out the 6 methods of characterization. If you're not sure, take a listen again and try again. We should be very familiar with these before we go into reading about methods of characterization and analyzing them.